Hey guys, Josh back with another review. This time we're talking about Twisters. This, of course, stars Glenn Powell from Top Gun Maverick fame, Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos, David Cornswet, who is our new Superman. So, very neat to see him. This is actually the first time I've seen him in action. Not really familiar with his work other than this film, of course, and Superman. So, we'll be seeing that next year. Directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who directed an episode of Mandalorian. Aside of that, I don't know of his work, unfortunately. So when word broke about this film, it wasn't exactly called a sequel, nor was it called a remake. It's really its own story. I would definitely call it a sequel. It is in the Twister universe, how I view it, and it, I think, has been stated that way as they got closer to launching the film to theaters, probably to get those old fans in the seats, maybe. So, of course, I'm referring to the 1996 classic Twister, which starred Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, and was directed by Jean Depont, who gave us Speed, and also did a lot of cinematography for Die Hard, and perhaps Die Hard 2. Very visually appealing film, action, had it all. It was also written by Michael Crichton, who gave us Jurassic Park and ER, just to name a few of his popular works. Prior to this sequel coming, there had been attempts before, and one was actually from Bill Paxton himself. Now, this was from a 2012 interview, which was 5 years before he passed. He thought Twister could have been much more intense. A Jaws type of film, if you will. And so he wanted to do a sequel about the next generation of storm chasers, perhaps the daughter of his and Helen Hunt's character, taking on the reins and having a new team and all that. He wanted to direct it, and he wanted to utilize 3D technology, which I think would have been great. He also wanted to base it off the tri-state tornado incident, which occurred in 1925 in Missouri. It was the deadliest storm, I guess, in U.S. history, biggest on record. It gets its name because it touched down in Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. It was a very tragic storm, and it was on the ground for over 3 hours. So very intense. And, you know, if you're making a sequel to Twister, that would be a great story to utilize. Obviously, it would be a present day type of tri-state tornado incident. But yeah, very cool ideas he had, I feel. And of course, he wanted to utilize climate change, which you could say this new film does. So yeah, let's get into the film Twisters itself. It's somewhat of a beat-by-beat remake, in a way, of the original film, but it also tops the goals of the first one. It definitely takes you to that next step. The tracking of the storm is really not the goal. It is something much bigger, and I don't want to give it away. But yeah, it's definitely a bigger goal, and I think a cool goal, and it's a great way to move forward. The characters were given. The main ones, that is, are very well established, I feel. And it's a trinity of characters, main characters this time, versus just a couple. There's a great setup in the beginning of the film that gives one of our characters some trauma to deal with. Very similar to Helen Hunt's character. Of course, we have the side characters, which are the rest of the storm chasers who are with us. And although we didn't get to know the original storm chaser partners much, we really did get a sense of each one's characteristics, how they pursued storm chasing, if you will. These new set of side characters are memorable, but they all kind of blend together. There's not really a singular one that you know more than the other, I feel, going off of memory, but they're very attractive characters. Part of Glenn Powell's team, which he plays Tyler, they have this British reporter tagging along, which I thought was actually a really cool dynamic because, I think, in England or Europe, I don't think they get tornadoes, and I could be totally wrong about that. I should have researched before, but that is really fascinating for someone to come to this country and write a story about storms that they've never experienced. So they're along for the ride. Powell's team are really like heavy metal storm chasers, and it could be seen as kind of annoying in the beginning. They're like a ragtag bunch, and they're just free free falling man and are just really into storm chasing and all that, which is, very similar to the original good storm team, if you will. There are, of course, the bad team, the very uptight storm chasers. So yeah, that's very close to the original with the tropes, if you will. Both, I think, teams utilize science. In fact, I think Powell's team is less into science than it's flipped, basically, from the original Twisters, which the bad guys were in it for the money, not the science, which I guess you could say these new bad guys are too, without giving too much away. There are a lot of callbacks in this film, and member berries, if you will. Dorothy returns. We saw this from the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything here. Yeah, she's back, and I like how they didn't claim to have invented her. Basically, they're just utilizing old tech from a university. So not only we have Dorothy returning, but we also have Dodge trucks returning for this film. And I thought that was really neat. It's a nice little nod. In the original Twister, you had the newly redesigned Dodge Caravans being showcased. And I think the new design of the Dodge Ram almost debuted with Twister, except Die Hard with a Vengeance came out before, I believe, and that was the introduction of that new model. So either way, we have Dodge trucks in this one. They're all over the place. There's actually, I don't think, any minivans. But it was really neat to see both hero and villain vehicles be like the same thing, except, of course, Powell's truck is very much decked out in modern tech, all that you could imagine. This was also showcased in the trailer. It's red like Paxton's, which I think that was a really good nod. Of course, they can take on damage. Paxton's couldn't, although there were scenes where it took on damage and then it was fine again. That was, one of the biggest flubs, you could say, from the original. But yeah, his truck was really cool. It had all kinds of crazy stuff going on with it. The side augers, which it did kind of ground it in reality, because he gets really into the storm, like literally into the storm. And these augers hold the truck down. And yeah, you could probably pick it apart. Like, that wouldn't really work. But anyway, at least they're trying, They're not just throwing weights in the bed of the truck and whatever. But yeah, it's got a lot of tech inside. They launch fireworks into the Twister. Like, they really showcase the storms. They make it part of an entertaining presentation for their fans, their YouTube personalities, which is a great way to capture modern times. The biggest thing I had a problem with when they were showing these trailers was, storm chasers, like the ones who have a lot of money, have these cool vehicles they've customized, and they're not trucks. They're more like cars, I think, but they're very decked out in like armor and all that. So I was like, I wish they would have had something like that. But this truck is just a more glamorous representation of that. So I understand it, and they want to sell some Dodge trucks here too. So it worked out. Also, one of the team members had a drone. I thought that was really cool. Like, that's totally what you would do now. Overall, it was great action. Fly by the seat of your pants. There's some slow moments, of course. The effects are pretty good, I think. I think they're pretty solid. We'll see what 30 years of time will tell. I mean, if you look back at the original Twister, it's a little rough in spots, especially the cows. There's a lot going on with this film. Yeah, there's a lot of trauma going on with some of the people involved. There's a lot of obstacles they need to overcome as people and I guess just as storm chasers, given, the finale, which I won't give away, but I think it was pretty damn great. From a Twisters film, if you will. Definitely could have screwed the pooch, been a direct-to-video disaster, which I'm sure they're out there. Haven't seen them yet. Only cons I really found with the film was just its lack of explanation with some of the happenstances going on. And I don't want to give away the scene or scenes, but, there's some far-fetched moments. It's fine. It's forgiven. This isn't Shakespeare, but I think it's like the first one. It tries to ground it in as much reality as it can while being entertaining and a nice popcorn flick. So it does that job pretty damn well. It also came out in IMAX, which I really wish I would have seen in that. But it was only out in IMAX for a week before Deadpool Wolverine, unfortunately, and that just kicked it out. So I wasn't able to see Twisters or have the experience I wanted. But overall, I I enjoyed it. Definitely, if you had the chance to see an IMAX, I'm sure it was great. Definitely worth seeing. Feel free to comment about your experiences if you did see it in IMAX. I'd like to know. But yeah, in conclusion, this film was very successful, and I'm sure we'll get another one sooner rather than much later. And I hope that it stays somewhat believable going forward. It can very well veer off course. Now, I only feel they could only do one more film, if that, and it maybe perhaps should be a legacy sequel. I would welcome it. Unfortunately, we don't have Bill with us anymore, but Helen Hunt's character, bring the other team back. Obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman, even if he was alive, I don't know if he would come back. Maybe he would. Yeah, I think a legacy sequel would be really cool to see. And it's unique that they did their own story starting out with. They didn't depend on the old characters. So I really respect that, and I'm happy that we have a chance of that. If it's done right, of course. Great film to rent or buy out of your collection. I definitely would love to buy it. I'm sure it looks amazing in 4K. But yeah, job well done to Warner Brothers, really kind of a surprise hit. I think it actually grossed more than they thought they projected. And I'm happy for, of course, Glenn Powell's career. He's a rising star. Maybe our next Batman, I hope. I mean, he is with Warner Brothers, so it's possible. Go see it. It's definitely worth checking out. Obviously, this is a late review of Twisters. It's been out for quite some time, so apologies. I will try to share my reviews sooner rather than later. With that said, get out there, see Twisters, and let me know what you think. I'm Josh. Take care.
Hey guys, Jonah with Field of Geeks back, and saw a couple of movies recently that I wanted to bring to your attention. I just mentioned or had referenced Long Legs. Another one that I saw, of course, was Twisters. I'm a huge fan of the original. I think it still holds up pretty well today, and I watch it probably 3 or 4 times a year as it is. And so I was excited about this movie going in, and it didn't let me down. It certainly lived up to my expectations in terms of the action, the special effects. The dialogue was even maybe a little improved upon over the original. One of the most surprising things, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but it's not a remake, which I thought was great. It is sort of a sequel in the loosest of terms. I mean, there is maybe one nod to the original very early on. And then other than that, it kind of does its own thing. While its own thing is very similar to the original, it's different enough. The cast is great. Glenn Powell, he is your, insert actor into this role, and he will kill it. And so he did well. The female actress did well. I liked the characters. The action was great. And so yeah, if you're looking for a great summertime popcorn movie, you cannot go wrong with Twisters. Go see it.